السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Welcome everyone to episode 5 of Ruh Revival, the podcast initiative brought to you by McMaster MSA, where we hope to answer some of the most burning questions in the minds of our youth today. And of course, we're not going to be answering the questions ourselves. We're going to be leaning on the wisdom and expertise of our beloved Shaikh and teachers in the community who are much more well-versed and well-equipped to answer those questions. So today we have a very exciting topic, alhamdulillah. This is actually in light of our booked internal MSA discussions on the topic of emotional intelligence, because it is it's a very hot topic right now. It's a very important topic. It's one that Muslims in the West and even globally should be discussing more and more, because it is something that it's a bit lacking in today's society. So through this talk, we hope to further explore the concept of emotional intelligence and its manifestations in our everyday lives. This is going to be served both as an introduction to the topic for anyone who has not read the book, or a reflection for people who did, another opportunity for them to reflect upon the contents of the book, and an invitation, I guess, for any listener who has not read the book to, inshallah, start reading it. So Sheikh Mikaeel needs no introduction, but I will give one anyways, because that's what we do. So Sheikh Mikaeel Smith, or Sheikh Mikaeel Ahmed Smith, embarked on a journey from a Christian upbringing in Buffalo, New York, to becoming a respected scholar in the Islamic community, inspired by the Quran and the autobiography of Malcolm X. He embraced Islam at 18 and completed Hifz of the Quran and advanced Islamic education in Syria and in Canada, mashallah. And currently he is based in Dallas, Texas. He serves as an instructor at Qalam Seminary, focusing on Islamic law, theology, and hadith. He is also the author of With the Heart in Mind, our book of discussion today, and another book, and his newest book, When Hearing Becomes Listening, both of which are must-reads for any Muslim looking to improve their character and social and emotional intelligence. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How's it going, Sheikh?
I'm doing good. Alhamdulillah. Good to be here in Hamilton.
First
time ever stopping in Hamilton.
Okay.
I've driven past Hamilton.
Have you been to a lot of university campuses?
Yeah, universities are very common. There's the Muslim population is so much. It's such an important part of our lives, where we need guidance. Spiritually, it's huge. So there's a lot of MSAs that reach out to people that can help us get guidance spiritually. And so, alhamdulillah, by Allah's fadl and grace, alhamdulillah, we've gone to quite a few different campuses.
I hope you've been enjoying the convention. We've certainly enjoyed your first lecture, which you just did, about the problem of evil, which, again, using your language, we should not be calling it a problem.
Well, there's layers to that, right? Yes. So the problem of evil is typically taking the assumption that there's something evil about this world, right? Which on a lower level is true, no doubt. There are evil things we can choose to do. Hence, we can do good or do bad, right? But overall, the creation of all of it is good, right? And so from a higher level, whether it be any level of suffering or difficulty, it was done for a reason. And according to like the mainstream Islamic understanding is because there's a hikmah or a reason for it, there's goodness in that, right? So that was the main thing. So that was that theodicy is the kind of like an undertoned topic there. And the first main topic was suffering, right? And so the idea that I spoke about, right, as you were there, right, is about realizing that you can't run away from suffering, that happiness is a byproduct of facing your struggles in life. When you face them, you find meaning in those, and that's where happiness is. It's a byproduct, right? So
Yeah, subhanAllah. I don't know if you've read like Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes,
Victor Frankl.
Exactly.
Yes, he talks about this. Like
exactly.
people chase after not happiness but meaning.
That's what we should
Yes.
chase after.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, subhanAllah. Yes. Look forward to your next lecture. Hopefully this one gets posted on YouTube. I'm not sure what's happening, but alhamdulillah, it was very beneficial, very much enjoyable. Jazakumullah khair. The topic of this podcast is going to be related to your. I understand you have 2 books, right?
2 books.
Two books, yes. So this is going to be your first book.
Yeah.
With the heart and mind, the emotional intelligence of the Prophet.
Yeah.
Salam. And this is because we just as an MSA we just went through the book. Alhamdulillah.
Okay.
Our book. I went through the book and we very much enjoyed it. We had our discussions about it.
Okay, amazing.
So maybe we wanted to pick your brain on something. Some we wanted to do to highlight some things that are very important.
Yeah.
And of course, not everyone's read the book, so it's going to be more like a reflection, also like maybe marketing for the book.
Yeah. No, we can talk about it. It's first of all, like my advice to a lot of our community is, if there's a book out there that you are looking for but can't find, maybe it's because you're supposed to write it.
Oh, subhanAllah.
Right? Maybe you're the one that's supposed to write that book, right? And so realize that you have something you can contribute. And so for me, what happened is, I don't know, maybe like 8 years ago, I was an imam and I came across this topic of emotional intelligence. I think there was a colleague of mine who kind of brought the topic up. And when he brought the topic up, it piqued my interest. I started reading on it. And the more I read on it, the more I saw the prophetic model within that, right? I saw our Prophet ﷺ's character and how he interacted within EQ, right? So that just led me down like just more research and reading and combining resources. And that's the beautiful thing. It's like, as a Muslim, as someone who's educated in the tradition, I felt like I had an ability to look at that thing and show the cohesion and where they don't overlap as well. Right? And so I started traveling to different cities doing this course on prophetic EQ. And the question I kept getting was, is there a book on it? And I was like, no, there's no book on this topic, right? So the idea that many of us, we go to like the local bookstore, whatever they're called, like we have Barnes and Noble, whatever, right? And then we buy these books and we Islamify it through our own filter, right? Where we actually need more literature written by Muslims, whether it be fiction, nonfiction. I think fiction is huge. We need so many people to actually start writing fiction, because just knowing that the author is a Muslim adds a level of safety in it that we feel comfortable with.
That's true.
So anyways, long story short, I'm trying to say is like, so everyone was saying like, is there a book? I was like, well, I guess I should do it. And so that's what led to the book.
I like the point you mentioned about having a Muslim write a book that's grounded in our tradition, as opposed to Islam. Because I was listening to a video lately, like I think sometime past week, and he was talking about how there's a book about basically the Prophet was democratic. It's like, well, that book is written because of the current paradigm we're living under. If we lived under a communist society, it'd be like, the Prophet was a communist. If we lived under, so subhanAllah, you find I don't know, what's your view on that?
Well, so the way I read it is, just because a Muslim wrote it doesn't mean it's going to be correct, number one, right? Obviously, just because a Muslim wrote it doesn't mean you're going to agree with it. But there's certain worldview things that I think there's certain things that you won't expect to be in that book, right? Again, a Muslim can write anything, right? Now, you mentioned something else which is connected to this, which is when I say like the Islamifying of information, it's not just about slapping a Bismillah on the front, a verse on the front, and saying this is now Islamified. No, it's about seeing where there is authentic cohesion and overlap of concepts, and then exploring where there isn't. Because in the exploration of where there isn't, we find how and why we think certain ways, and how and why a secular society, a Western society, a liberal society frames things different. So whenever there isn't a cohesion between ideas, then that allows us to explore that place of conflict. And in that we find meaning, we find deeper meanings. And that's so profound, because we as Western Muslims, and especially in colleges, I think the most important thing right now is helping us understand why we think the way we think, right? Like helping us question the assumptions that a liberal framework has just given us naturally. You'll read something and see it all, and then you'll be like, why? In the Prophet's life, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's like, what? That rubs me wrong. So, okay, recognize that it rubs you wrong first. Admit it, that rubs me wrong. But then ask why. Why is that rubbing me wrong? And so we that's where the Islamifying of knowledge happens. It's where we see overlap that's authentic, and where we see a lack of overlap and explore why there isn't an overlap there. And that process to me is so freeing. When you realize why you think the way you think, it's just so free, right? It's so free.
SubhanAllah. It's true. I think, so this book, I think, I'm saying, for this podcast, the target audience, I would say, is mostly people who are, they're either any sons and daughters. Well, not either, but they're sons and daughters.
Yeah.
They've got siblings.
Yeah.
They've got community
Relationships.
friends, multiple different relationships. Maybe they're not married, probably.
Yeah.
Most people here. But yeah, so they've got different relationships. So I guess the first question, I know this is something that you kind of mentioned, you do mention this in the book,
Yeah.
is I guess emotional intelligence. How important is it?
Yeah. So I would back up, Ahmed. I would say that my target audience was anyone who, first of all, my target audience was, I know it sounds broad, but all Muslims. And the reason is, I wanted us to reframe, and appreciate who the Prophet ﷺ was. So in my mind, actually, the purpose of this book was to get people to appreciate his ability to connect to someone in a passionate, intimate way, and influence them, number one. Then secondarily, because of the multiple relationships we have, this book would speak to your different relationships because you have to emotionally invest in them and all of those things. But my main job was I wanted Muslims, and maybe particularly Muslim men. I wrote this at a time when there was a lot of pushback from the reaction of feminism in the Muslim community against men and toxic masculinity. So I wrote this to try to recenter the prophetic masculinity. But I didn't come straight out at it. There are some lines in it where I do say it straightforward. But for the most part, I pulled a lot because I didn't want it to be targeted. I didn't want people to see this as write it off because it's too much going after brothers and stuff, right? But generally speaking, and I go more into this in my second book, but generally speaking, the emotional investment part is something that, man up. We say man up. What does that mean? Don't show emotion, right? So anyways, one of my target audience was Muslim men. I wanted Muslim men to really reframe how they look at the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, and see the emotional side of human interaction. And the other thing was I felt that this was good for du'at. I also wrote this. See, context is so important in everything. Everything we say in our lives has context, and the books that are written have context too. As a tangent, I recently heard a scholar say in a closed gathering that there's a certain well-known classical author who wrote different stuff, right? Well-known, like he wrote commentaries on different books, right? But what people don't know is what's been written about who his wife was and her relationships with different people. Her father-in-law was this and that, and how what's talked about at home influences everyone. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So the impact of that relationship, they say, impacted a lot of what he wrote about, right? Because he can be at home talking about this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, so one of the other contexts of this book was toxic, I would call dawah, which is just like drop it on their face, give it to them. If you don't take it, you don't take it. If you take it, you take it. And so I wanted people to look at the Prophet, and I think I wrote this in the book, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not as as what I use the example is like certified male, versus a regular mailman. A regular mailman or woman just leaves it in the box. If you get it, you get it. Certain messages are so important that you need to sign for them. They're certified, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we look at the message of Wahi, revelation. He had to make sure people got it. So I also wrote this book for people who, and I think there's a smaller group of these people, but people who are trying to leave a positive influence on other people on any level, whether they be major du'at or just dealing with their younger brother or sister, that you need to build rapport, you need to build trust, you need to emotionally invest, and then once there's rapport built, then the message can be delivered and the message will be accepted. Otherwise, the message will be rejected. So I wanted people to appreciate those aspects of the prophetic model. Right?
SubhanAllah. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah
Exactly.
wal maw'izatil hasana. Walau kunta faddan ghalidha al-qalbi
Exactly.
min hawlik." I don't know the translation.
If you were harsh and like staunch and hard-hearted, people would run away.
Yes.
You know, they would run away, which is profound because one could have said, who cares if they run away? It's their fault. You didn't, it's your fault. In the like, well, you ran away, it's your fault. Nah, you are responsible. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to some level, was responsible for holding the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Just up to what is ma'ruf. You know, he doesn't have to go out of the way. But his character kept them close. They'd run away. If you were harsh-hearted, they'd run away. So my question to people giving dawah or interacting is, are you sinful for pushing people away based on your character? And I think there's some level of responsibility there.
Definitely. And it's also, it contradicts the prophetic guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Prophet, لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ إِلَّا يَكُونُ مُؤْمِنِينَ وَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them, like, don't kill yourself over it.
Yeah, don't, like, to the Prophet, it's as if you would kill yourself, hurt yourself, destroy yourself. Meaning he was so worried about
He was so invested in guiding them, saving them from the hellfire. It's not just about giving the message.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not a 9-to-5 job.
You just leave it. You actually have to be emotionally invested.
You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because, it's SubhanAllah.
Now, there's one more aspect I want to share with you, which is deep. Now, the most important relationship, and this is what I wrote about in the second book, is the parental relationship, because many of us, we form attachment models based on our first primary caregiver or the one we spend time with. And that attachment model is then used throughout life. So you'll find a brother who has trust issues. You know, his wife is very loyal, but he has trust issues because he has a insecure attachment model. He doesn't feel that he is able to be loved because of early the model that was formed. What's crazy about this, though, is the studies that show, and I put this in the second book, the studies that show that attachment models can impact your capacity to connect with God. When the imam is sitting there saying, trust Allah, trust, and from the age of 6, you've never been able to trust your dad or mom, then your ability to trust, or how many of us have actually heard someone tell us that Allah loves us? And now, do you accept that love? Or are you questionable? Is that sus to you that someone loves you? And that comes back to an attachment. Some people don't know how to be loved because they were never loved. Now, what does that matter? Well, your emotional investment as a father, a brother, a sister, a friend can actually impact someone's ability to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's crazy.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, so there's this idea that, you mentioned da'wah, for example, and you have people who are, I don't know what Sheikh Ahmed, but some people, have this intrinsic, like that skill, like they're just good at it. Like
what skill though? Let's highlight
of
what
talking to people, of being convincing. So, I know that's not the exact. That's not the exact into emotional intelligence, but the idea of some people comes to them naturally.
Yeah.
It's like part of their personality, just easy for them, whereas others might struggle. So,
well, it's interesting you bring that up because I think a debater, which Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala was, and a lot of the scene we see in other parts of the world where dawah happens, of a more face-to-face debating style, I don't think that's conducive a lot of times to conversions. I don't think that's conducive. Those are like a lot of theatrics. There's a lot of rhetoric there. There's a lot of aspects to debate that are there that there's a lot of ego in that stuff. A lot of ego in that, right? And Imam Shafi said, I never debated anyone except that I wished that the truth come off of their tongue, not my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, when you're debating a non-Muslim, that would mean them saying La ilaha illallah, right? But if you have to destroy a person publicly in front of people, what's the likelihood of this person in front of people just responding positively to them? So in the back of my mind, there was an aspect of emotional intelligence missing from the dawah scene.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ahmed rahimahullah ta'ala, was public on stage. He's talking to a crowd. There's very little emotional intelligence involved in talking to a crowd. That's rhetoric. That's your ability to control people's thinking and control their hearts with your orating skills. So I would look at Ahmed different, rahimahullah, than I look at the street dawah people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there has to be a level of genuine concern that sometimes was not present in the debate scene. Remember the debate scene.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I would differentiate between the public orator and
Okay. Yes, subhanAllah, I wasn't really, I meant to use him as an example, but that's a good point you made.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about it that way. But I mean, maybe if we can bring it back to the family aspect, for
Yes,
example.
yes.
So for the family aspect, it's a similar principle. The idea that some people are just, I don't know, nice people. I mean, it comes to them effortlessly, whereas other people can be a bit harsh. You know the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, Ashajja Abdul Qais came to him, and he told him, إِنَّ فِيكَ خَصْلَتَيْنِ يُحِبُّهُمَ اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ الْحِلْمُ وَالْأَنَاتُ. There are two traits in you that,
yes,
that Allah loves. I don't think Rasul was probably.
yeah.
That Allah loves.
Mm-hmm.
Hilm and anat. Was it compassion? Forbearance and
You do things deliberately, slow.
yes, forbearance and doing things with deliberation. Yes. So some people, it's innate. It's part of their nature. And some people, they have to like really put in an effort.
Yeah, I look at it like physical features, bro. Like
Physical features.
your internal features are just like your physical features.
Okay.
First of all, there's no one standard of beauty.
That's true.
Okay. Internally, there's no one standard of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You may be attracted to one thing. You may not be attracted to another thing. You may find something beautiful that other people don't find beautiful. Okay. So first of all, I would look at inner qualities much like that. We all have a different set of them. I'm not tall, right?
Yeah. Neither am I.
Right. So much for that. If you like, whatever. Alhamdulillah, my wife is happy, so I'm good. She doesn't like tall people. Maybe she does, but she's happy with me. The point being is, I'm not tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I have another quality that is nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So similarly, you're right. Internally, we all we're different, right? We're all very different. Now, when it comes to this area, similarly, some people have it easier. They naturally can be more vulnerable. They naturally are more trusting, whatever. Whether from nature or nurture, by the way, right? But that doesn't mean no one has the whole package, though.
Mm-hmm.
So just because you have like the ability to be emotionally vulnerable, you may have an anger issue. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Just because you don't have an anger issue at all, you may have, you may be emotionally detached from people. What I'm trying to say is, you're right. It's easier for some people. Just the same way basketball is easier for tall people. And the same way wrestling is easier for short people.
Mm-hmm.
So like, who's got the perfect thing here? But we're not allowed to use what we've been given as an excuse, as a cop-out. We're not allowed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an anger, inclination to be someone who gets angry faster, well, that's your jihad. That's literally what your struggle is, right? If your issue is emotional connection and bonding, well, that's what you got to work on, right? So while this guy's chilling on anger, has no issues, this guy's like, anger is his whole thing. Alhamdulillah. You have to realize, and this helps us as a community have more compassion, because the thing that God made easy for me may not be the thing that God made easy for another person. And guess what? Same thing for sins too.
Mm-hmm.
Certain people have no problem with certain sins, meaning no problem not doing them.
Yes.
Other person, this is hard. It's okay. We struggle here, but you're able to do this. You can get it for touch, no problem. This person can. So it's all good, but the problem though, and this is why this was an intention. I love this question because one of the intentions was I wanted people to stop using their God-given dispositions as an excuse not to emotionally connect.
SubhanAllah, the idea that everyone has a different test, everyone's tested differently. I think you can think about it two different ways. You can look at it from two different angles. Number one, things that come easily to you. You know that it is a blessing from Allah, that it is easy for you and other people have to struggle through it, and from that you get humility.
Oh wow, beautiful.
And at the same time, you look at things that other people have difficulty with, and again, actually, it's another exercise of humility. You look at the things that they find difficult, and you remember they have other things that you find difficult that are easy for them.
Yeah. Or shukr, when you see it's easy for me.
Yes, alhamdulillah.
Right, so humility and shukr. Right, that's the idea. But what it could do, and it often does, is create hubris. And what's the other one? Instead of being humble, you have hubris, arrogance, no. Yeah. And the other, like entitlement. Like, oh yeah, I'm better at that. Right. So it should create gratitude, but it creates entitlement. And it should create humility, but it created hubris.
Remember what Sulaiman alayhi salam said, هذا من فضل ربي
That's it.
ليبلوني.
Allahu Akbar.
It's from Allah, it's from the fadl of my Lord to test me.
Yeah, test, yes.
Whether I be thankful or I akbar.
Yeah.
In this regard, I guess not be thankful for the blessing. I think a lot of us here in the West, we have a very different upbringing from, say, our parents. Our parents had a lot of struggles. Maybe they were not, the concept of emotional intelligence, maybe they had to learn it the hard way, and there was not, I would say, an equal playing field. So you have sometimes, I guess, what's it called? Like it was difficult to communicate, a disconnect, yes, between this generation and the one that came before.
Yeah.
Like when we talk to our parents, for example, there might be some struggles when it comes to that. Do you have any advice on how to navigate those situations?
Yeah, those are difficult, definitely. First of all, we have to approach our parents with compassion and understanding. A lot of their energies went to building the financial and economic stability. And here we are able to focus on some of the emotional aspects of who we are due to the stability that they've been able to provide in our home. So approach them with compassion. The other thing is that cognitive flexibility is higher when you're young, right? That's just nature. That's how we learn so much. And as we age, our cognitive flexibility decreases naturally, just as our physical body is less.
It's very difficult to convince a 67-year-old of a new concept that's foreign to them.
Exactly. And so, but here's the deal. There's another aspect of cognitive flexibility that ties into emotional intelligence. And that is emotional intelligence has to do with you controlling the emotion and choosing the response that you want to give. However, for many people, the responses are automatic, not deliberate responses, right? And so I wrote about this in the book. I believe there's a section on this in the book where it talks about choosing in the moment how you want to respond to something. That's part of emotional intelligence. As if, subhanAllah, the example I give is, this Marvel superhero that, what's it, the fast dude, Flash, right?
DC.
It's DC, whatever. So anyways, when he moves, everything else is slow. Right? Now, for an emotionally intelligent person, I think it's similar. Because other people, you do something to them, they respond, and they don't realize what they did till afterward. But the emotionally intelligent person is before their words. They're moving faster here, and this is moving slower. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And so cognitive flexibility that elderly start to lose, they'll just start responding to stuff automatic based on 40, 50 years of a certain response. Whereas we have a level of cognitive flexibility that they just don't have. And so when I talk about cognitive flexibility, it's that ability to choose the decision you want to make. And as we get older, I mean, you see it so clear. It's just an automatic yelling, an automatic It's automatic responses, right? So how are we going to deal with these parents that don't show love, communicate love, when we just said earlier in our podcast that the love that you've connected and the attachment model that you've made can impact your relationship with God? Well, I think that requires a bit of reframing. Depending on the culture you're from, you're going to have to learn how to see love in what they do, right? If your dad says every day at 5 o'clock, Jibli Shai, right? Bring me Shai. But he only asks you, that's it, Jibli Shai. That's his love language with you, right? If you're not there, he's going to feel like, oh, where's she at, right? Maybe it's something else, I don't know. But learn how to identify how they communicate love. Now, when you're looking for a spouse, you have to actually identify that first, right? You got to talk about this stuff first so that you realize and make sure that you communicate and express love in a similar way, or at least understand how the other person expresses and feels loved, right? Think of it this way. When you give someone a gift for their birthday, and this is a funny marital joke, but you don't give a gift that you like. You give a gift that they like. The gift must communicate to them that you love them, not that you love yourself. Mm-hmm. See what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So you actually have to know them deeply in order to give them what they like, not what you like. Similarly, if I tell you I love you, if my love language is money, and I want to tell you I love you, and I go out and buy you a necklace to communicate love, but your love language is not material things. It's acts of kindness, then we just got to misconnect, because you feel like I'm not romantic and I feel like you don't appreciate it. So again, with every person, we have to understand how they communicate love and how they, and again, these are only with close people to us. This is only with the people that are supposed to, where we expect that nourishment from, right? But figure out how they communicate love, learn how to. Again, it's really hard for an Ammar who's never said the words "I love you" to all of a sudden start saying "I love you." Now, what I can recommend is a method of slow. I forgot the word for it, but what's the word when you get someone used to something slowly over time? Conditioning, slow conditioning. So what you can do with a father, say your communication love language is physical touch, and your dad never hugs you, right? So what you have to do then is you're gonna have to get him used to hugs, which is for a week straight, every day you go to him and give him a hug. And it's awkward, it's weird, whatever. But you keep doing it, you keep doing it. I guarantee you after a month or so, he's gonna start missing those hugs. He's gonna start expecting those hugs. And you've conditioned him. You know what I'm trying to say? And now, I always use male examples, and I don't wanna do that. There are a lot of women who emotionally are disconnected from whoever or whatever, for whatever reason. Right? So, something we don't struggle with.
I remember one time Sheikh told us to, actually no, I'm not gonna say it. My dad went out. I remember
you can clip this. You guys edit, right?
He told me to say something, and subhanAllah, I tried and he laughed at me. Like, what do you think?
Say like I love you.
No,
say
it's
it.
like,
Go on,
it's like labbaik. It's like, Sheikh, don't say na'am, say labbaik.
Okay.
And he was like, what is it?
He said that to you.
No, the Sheikh was like, tell your father labbaik. Don't tell him na'am.
Okay.
And I did, and he was like, where'd you hear this from?
Yeah, it was weird to him.
It was weird.
So to the Shaykh, that was the best showing of love, and I'm here.
Yeah.
And for your dad, it's like, we're not at Hajj, bro. What are you doing?
Yeah,
like, what are you doing?
Like, why are you speaking Fusha? Like,
yeah. So there you go. I mean, that's a beautiful example of really knowing someone and communicating. I'll give you an example in it's in the book where the Prophet says to Aisha, I know when you're happy with me and I know when you're angry.
Yes.
All that you're doing is telling a person, I know you so well that I see every little thing about you. Mm-hmm. And then he goes on to tell her what she does. He tells her what she does. It's just letting you know I'm so aware of you. And then she feels amazing because, wow, someone's paying attention to me.
Yeah.
And not someone, anyone, because we all strive for attention. And this is for college students, right? This podcast is for college students, right?
Yes.
That's why everyone's on these different weird apps like OnlyFans and all this, because they want attention, bro. Mm-hmm. It's a desire for attention. Mm-hmm. They want someone to look at them, someone to value them. And if we don't get value where we're supposed to get it, human nature will search for it everywhere it can find it.
Yes, subhanAllah, it goes a long way. Noticing, like telling someone, I noticed you do this. Obviously, if it's a positive thing, don't mention if it's a negative thing. But
even as a joke, negative is good too. Negative is like when you're that close with the person,
yeah,
and you're not
could be
patronizing them, and you're not like being a passive aggressive.
Could be a form of advice.
Yeah, that's passive aggressive sometimes.
That's true.
No, it's just more like, you know how you and your siblings can sometimes talk to your parent about something they do and we all just laugh about it. Like how dad walks in the house, how dad does something. Like you can do stuff like even noticing quirky things. Like my mother, whenever there's a song on, right? And she would sing it. She doesn't know any of the words, but she's still trying to sing it, right? Yeah. And then you go, like, Mom, you don't know the song. Just like, what are you doing? So whenever we would mention that, me and my sister, we would crack up. Even my mom would laugh.
Yeah, that's true.
So even noticing something, anything, just shows how much we love you and we know you, you know?
I guess it's another exercise of emotional intelligence, knowing what is appropriate.
Yeah, I know, right? There you go. There's another level of emotional intelligence.
So many levels.
Yeah, definitely. And I haven't mastered it. Yeah. I mean, these are things, I talk about them as if I'm at home and like it's hard. It's hard. These are things that every day you're like, oh my God, what did I do? Did I say the right thing? You know? So there's no mastery. I haven't mastered these things, but you can study, we can teach it, we can all learn about it, talk about it, and get better.
Yes, subhanAllah. The Prophet ﷺ said, نَظَرَ اللَّهُ امْرِئًا سَمِعَ مِنَّا مقالة فبلغها كما سمعها فرب مبلغ أوعى من سمع أو رب حامل فقه إلى من هو أفقه منه أو رب حامل فقه إلى من ليس بفقيه. Different narrations. Yeah. But the idea is the Prophet ﷺ commends the one who relays the message as he heard it, because you never know who's listening, and you never know.
The one listening, finish the hadith. The one listening may actually be
أفقه.
Understand it better than the one saying it.
Yeah, or maybe
Yeah. So sometimes. Yeah, so like it was totally, it's a struggle. And it only gets more complicated because human relationships, we'll talk about this in the second book. We are quite different than other animals because primates and humans, we operate in complex social structures. And complex means that at the same time, I'll give an example to make it easy. Reptiles don't worry about their grandmother. Okay. There's no concept. Yeah. The moment the separation happens, this other entity is just another one of the pack, right? Human beings, we're able to think about people related to us further out and interact with them. This is deep. We're able to interact in one household, and Muslim households do this more. In the same day, you will walk in a room and be a daughter to your dad, be a daughter to your mother. You walk into another room, your husband's there. Right? Now you have to be a wife. Then you walk into another room, your little sister's there. So human beings live in really complex social groupings. And the ability to shift between relationships takes a very large cognitive load. This is all in my second book. Takes a very large cognitive load, which differentiates us from other, what they call, there's two mating structures, right? There's two mating structures amongst animals. There's pair bonded animals and there's casual. The casual they meet for a season, they bond, they mate, and they never see each other again. That's low on the totem pole of cognitive development. What that means, hookup culture is de-evolution. SubhanAllah. Hookup culture. You're with someone for a month, you mated with them in the most intimate way, and then you just parted ways. Reptiles literally do that. Whereas human beings, mammals, orcas, live in pods, and they're bonded for life typically, or at least multiple seasons, right? Because it takes a higher cognitive load to stay with someone else throughout life. It's cognitively easier to just, I'm done, swipe right. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So like, this stuff is profound. If you look at what's going on in our society, it's really profound. Sorry to take that digression.
No, it's a good digression because it's a good segue into the next part. So we're gonna shift gears a little bit.
Yeah.
We're still discussing the book, but In the book, you also, other than emotional intelligence, also mention moral intelligence.
Yeah, moral intelligence. So here's the deal. Emotional intelligence is a key to unlock a heart. Okay? It's a key to unlock a heart. It's a key to get somewhere emotionally where you want them to be. Which means it's Machiavellian in its sense. It's Machiavellian in the sense that it can be manipulative. I mean, some of the worst people are emotionally intelligent, extremely emotionally intelligent. They get you to do what they want you to do, right? So, if we're going to say that emotional intelligence is part of a prophetic paradigm, there needs to be something that differentiates it from the usage in a negative sense, which is the moral component. The moral component, which is the revelation, the do's and don'ts, the love for your brother, what you love for yourself, the whoever cheats us is not one of us. All of those aspects anchor, hold down, or they add a dynamic to prophetic intelligence, which stops emotional intelligence from being nafsi just for your own self. Because again, some of the most manipulative people, manipulation is emotional intelligence. You can't be manipulative without having a high EQ. Right? And so therefore, when I was trying to frame prophetic intelligence, I wanted to show that emotional is to get the message across. The moral component is what makes sure that that thing isn't left unchecked. And another aspect, EQ is the packaging for the actual revelation. It's the packaging. It's how we get that medicine. The example I gave is you have capsules that people have to take, gel caps, right?
Yeah.
The medicine is inside the gel cap. But we can't just pour the medicine. Like if you take the medicine out the gel pack and just take it, the gel capsule and just take it, it's not effective because they actually need it to be, diffused within your stomach, not in your mouth. So it has to get to here. Okay? It has to get to here. Well, the revelation has to get to here. So the gel cap around the medicine is the EQ. The problem, though, is some people use EQ and put something else inside the gel cap because they want something from you. Get it?
Yeah.
I mean, people are smart. They can connect the dots.
I think it was Imam al-Zahabi who said, لعن الله الذكاء بلا إيمان. Allah cursed intelligence without Iman. Allah cursed intelligence without Iman.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep. Wow. I mean, you could have just summarized my whole book with that.
Maybe in the third book, maybe you can mention it.
That's deep.
So, talking about moral intelligence, I think.
Yeah, so I believe we have 5 components of moral intelligence in the book. One of the most important one is a moral compass. Moral compasses are what's going to give you right and wrong. And there's a dua. Oh Allah, show us the truth as truth, and show us the falsehood as falsehood. That's very deep because it shows us that the truth and what I see as true may not always line up. So I actually ask God, oh Allah, allow me to see truth as truth. And Imam Ghazali, all of our studies scholars have written how sins may actually impact your ability to see good as good. See good as good. It happens a lot where a certain sin, and the example they give is if you're sick. You ever been really sick, like one of those like flu sicknesses, and someone fry food? You feel like throwing up.
Yeah.
Even though you love fried food. But now because of your sickness, the smell of something good actually makes you want to throw up. Hence why sometimes you may go into a positive and good environment, but not feel like sitting there because you're sick.
The hadith of the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. The fitness will be pretty. The desensitization.
Yes.
Right? Your heart just gets so used to it. Now you put it in a positive environment, it feels horrible. It feels like, I want to get out of here. And so you can actually use those gatherings as a test for yourself. This is deep. If people listening to this, I'm telling you, this is so important. You can literally tell how sick you are by sitting around good people that you know cognitively are good people. Because your natural thing is going to be like, And you're like, see, I know you nafs, you don't like this, but we're gonna sit here because they're the cure.
Oh, it's so true.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, and it's the same group. Sometimes you feel that,
The same group.
like the same gathering. Actually, you go to this halqa, like, and you know when you messed up, and you go. The next time you go, you feel like you don't belong there.
Yep, you don't belong.
Yeah.
You feel like you don't belong.
It's a good
But the thing I would say to that feeling is hospitals are for sick people.
Yes.
They're not for healthy people. We're all at some level. The more sick you think you are, the more you actually should go.
Yes.
And Shaitan says you shouldn't go.
100%. I mean, it's the emotion. The emotion itself is a big metric. You should not act upon it.
Yeah. You should go. You should force yourself to be around those good people. Definitely.
We're living in pretty immoral times, especially. I think we mentioned this last podcast episode, but I wanted to say the West. I'm like, no, actually, globally, unfortunately, morality has been lacking lately. So, and how can we be, I guess, agents of change? How can we, be a positive impact, I guess, in that regard?
I think first premise is we have an Islamic understanding that things get worse as we get closer to the Day of Judgment.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we need to be careful of not recognizing the ebbs and flows of society. When you look at the Pompeii and different places, the level of fahisha or indecency looks very similar to things we would see today in some places around America and the West and Europe and stuff, right? So, and even maybe Middle Eastern countries, we should not be not hide from what's reality. So the point I would like to say is there's an ebb and flow. I would say though, however, in the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s in America, in the West, the level of decency. Now, most of our audience, hearing that word decent is going to have a gag reflex. Because there's because decent, this is a whole nother podcast, bro, but the word decent is so relative now that we don't even use the word like. Let me take a second to explain. You can almost walk into a place and speak your truth means that I represent what is decent, what is right, what is good. And we almost have to accept it now. And extreme liberalism puts us at a point where we have to accept complete opposites, but accept them.
Moral relativity.
Complete relativity. So when we say decent, there was a communal understanding of vulgarity in public in the 70s, or vulgarity around children. Oh, don't do that around children, right? What I'm trying to highlight is, first of all, I said that over the span of human civilization, we've had some very dark times, morally, number one. Now, in modern times, yes, the time we live in, sexually and other aspects of ethics, I think, are pretty bad from a Muslim perspective. From an American perspective, the things we are seeing now are quite more bad, if we were to use that word, than they were before. How do we survive? Now you're asking the question. I mean, bro, that's what Muslims do. We try to figure out how to thrive spiritually in an environment that isn't the best environment for us. How do we do that? Well, let's give the easy ways. You need a good connection with revelation. What I mean is you need to constantly be reading and understanding Quran and Hadith. Those need to be constants in you. And not just reading them. I'm not just saying read the Quran. You need to connect, right? Number one, so you need that. You also need company. Where we should be in a garden that allows the flowers to grow and have other people around us who are watering those seeds of Iman within us. You need to be cautious in life. I mean, right now there are so many different lifestyles. Ours is a Muslim. Our Muslim lifestyle necessitates I'm cautious about certain things. We have people that don't eat certain things. They not out of health reasons, because they choose, I'm a vegan, I'm vegetarian, I'm this, I'm paleo, I don't, whatever. They're careful. And they only stay in company that typically is conducive to them. Mm-hmm. And they actually expect people to conform to them when they walk in the room. So maybe we can learn a little something from some liberal aspects and have a little courage with our religious expression. Good people, regular feed of positivity, and that means revelation. Now there's one more aspect though. We are on the precipice of extremely accelerated AI capacities. We are already in the time of extreme globalization where everyone is on top of one another. We see everything instantaneously. So now more than ever, I would say we have to be very conscious consumers of what we allow in our brains. Not that you should not eat, feed, right? Your feed. Not that you should not consume. We need some awareness. But don't let the algorithm choose what you're eating. Be very conscious about what you're going to allow in. There's a hadith. Iffah the ras wa ma wa'a. Protect your mind and what's inside of it. So now that we're in this zombie state of just scrolling, we need to be aware of that. We're going to only see more individualism with the Apple VR glasses and things like this as they become more common. We'll see more people in their own bubbles of reality. We just got to stay close to each other, but never lose grip of what's real. What's real? Because now for us, the dunya isn't real, but now there's a layer of fakeness on top of the dunya, the virtual world, right? Which is now being sprung onto us. People will be typing on things that are not real, but they're real. So it's going to be very interesting nonetheless. Stay around good people and watch what you consume, right? And on top of that, just because we are still dealing with the genocide of our brothers and sisters, listen, we have to be outspoken. We have to be at rallies. We have to do everything. We have to post. We can't be apologetic about calling genocide what it is. We have to do that. At the same time, I don't believe the human mind is made to consume such information on a constant basis. I think it is a threat to our mental health to consume that much negativity and raw data and imagery. Not that we put our hands in the ground and act like it's not happening. I didn't say that. I said just know your threshold and know what you can take and what you can't take. Yeah, that's extremely important nowadays, right? It's extremely important.
You know, I don't know if this is good exercise, but to the point of watching what you consume and not over consuming. I've recently, because I find myself sometimes I'm not on YouTube, I'm not on Instagram, Facebook, I'm not on any of these platforms, but I still consume YouTube. And a lot of times, even when I say all I watch is lectures.
Everybody has their drug, I mean.
Exactly. Everyone has their drug.
Don't say I'm not on this, but I'm on YouTube.
No, I'm going back to the point where you find something easy, but you're tested with something different.
I love YouTube too, don't worry.
Yeah, but I'm saying sometimes I open the record, the homepage, and you see, amazing episode by Sheikh so-and-so, amazing, and it's just scattered information.
You know, that's crazy because we're not deliberate anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have 30 minutes of your chill time, and in that 30 minutes, this is my decompress, I will not be deliberate in this time, so be it.
Yes.
But if you're unstructured in your unstructuredness, I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Yeah. You can have a time of unstructured. This is literally my chill time. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to scroll for the next 25 minutes, right? Now, we can actually debate what the dopamine impact of scrolling. That's a whole other topic, right? That quick hit of something new, novelty, which is what we all love nowadays, right? Novelty. But I think the middle path for us is, this is my structured, chill time. I'll do that. But I'm not just going to be unstructured all day where I'm scrolling, randomly scrolling. Because that's just where's your direction in life?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And as I think we're talking now just on levels of what we're realizing. Look, what I say about social media, and I know we're kind of running out of time, social media is a longitudinal, we're being experimented on. But we won't get the data back for the next 20 years when me and you are older and we saw the impact of such direct communication and such instant communication. Okay? And this plays into so much. We're so anxious. There's studies that show you're safer now than you ever were historically. But because we see so many like things on Twitter and whatever of just random acts of violence, we're all expecting like someone's just gonna walk up and punch me in the back of the head or something. Na'udhu. But you're safer now. Statistically, you're safer now than we've ever been before. But we've been consuming just so much, man. So anyways, I've been on this trip for a while about just be careful what you consume. But again, you got to have some chill time. This is a way we kind of relax, but have structure in your unstructuredness. That makes sense.
Yeah. My advice, like this has been working for me. I, instead of going to the YouTube homepage now, I have I don't think it works on the phone, but on my laptop, it goes in the subscriptions page right away instead of the recommendation page.
So the algorithm isn't hitting you.
Yeah, so I choose what shows up.
That's amazing.
by subscribing to, and this way, like my rule of thumb is I'm not going to be subscribed to more channels than or the amount of channels I'm subscribed to, their content should not exceed what I can humanly watch in one day.
Wow.
I don't know, just people have different systems that work for them,
That's
but
amazing.
alhamdulillah, the phone is an issue because I don't think you can do that in the app. But
The phone is an issue from a whole other perspective, but we're at a point now where it is a necessity.
Yes.
Prior to September 11th, prior to COVID, I went flip phone.
Oh man, that's
I switched to flip phone.
That's amazing.
And then I had to go back though because like work and they're like, we need people available. So I went back to a regular iPhone.
Must have been easy. Like, did you feel like by going back?
So it was hard. It was easy. Okay. All right. Think about it. First of all, texting. I stopped texting, started calling. If you texted me, I would call you.
Yes.
Because it would take too long to type.
Yes.
So I saved time because I would just call people like, yo, okay, what did you want? Okay. The hard part was navigation. Number one.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Number two was hard. Was I travel a lot. So like I'm here in Hamilton, right? So that was like, oh man, I can't print up all my boarding passes. You know what I'm saying? So that was hard. But other than that, what else was difficult? Yeah, that was it. I mean, I just started, a lot of people got phone calls from me. There's a lot of phone calls.
That's good.
You know, there's a lot of phone calls. The problem is though, we're all, like, this is great. I love it though. The problem is every communication method is on every device. You don't get the problem. Well, see, some people I'm a Luddite. I'm somewhat of a Luddite, so it just means like you don't like technology. Some people have accused me of that, right?
I'm a computer science. So.
No, my problem is why is, for example, email on your phone, right? Text on your phone, email on your phone, but that's also on your computer too, right?
Yes.
So like I think what can help some people is, do you actually need email on your phone? Or can you have a time in the day when you sit at the computer and answer emails? You know what I'm trying to say?
Good enough because if someone really needs you, they're not going to email you.
That's true, exactly. So why is email on your phone? Why are you checking emails on your phone?
That's actually a very good point.
You know what I mean? Like, why are you checking emails? You should be checking on your laptop where you actually think, you know? Anyways, it's a long topic, but we can do it another day.
Exactly.
My wife hated it though.
Oh, she hated you.
She's like, you're in another phase, and it's just making my life difficult for no reason.
Oh, you guys used to WhatsApp?
WhatsApp you could do from desktop.
That's true as well.
If you need to. There's another problem though. I don't want the world having instant access to me.
Yes.
Some of us value deep work. Books take deep focus to write. If someone just airdrops into my life every 5 minutes, bing, 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 how am I ever getting my work done?
There's a nice book in Arabic, Al-Majrayat. I don't know if you've come across it, but it talks about 5 individuals who, it talks about this idea of, Majrayat. I think he gets it from Ibn Taymiyyah.
Okay.
Like Majrayat from Majara, like they have the going-ons, things that are constantly going on, and how they, like, you blink with the blink of an eye, your golden years have passed, and you have not accomplished anything because you're always caught up with what's happening.
Okay.
Always caught up with what's happening. And he brings 5 individuals from the 20th century. And how they dealt with it.
This is amazing. I would love to look at this.
It's in Arabic. There's no English yet. hopefully it's translated. But
Remember, I said at the beginning, if there's a book that you want and can't find, perhaps you're the one that's supposed to write it. Maybe we can end with that. Jazakallah khair.
Just to conclude, again, we recommend everyone read Sheikh Mikaeel's 2 books, With the Heart in Mind and When Hearing Becomes Listening, and all the other publications by Qalam Institute. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
No, that's it, man.
That's it. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for your time. May Allah accept from you. May Allah bless you, and inshallah, and we hope you guys enjoy and benefit from the episode.
Jazakallah khair.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. سبحانك السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته.